self-remembering, in connection with the necessity of seeing the beauty of the work ideas so that they fall on the right place in us, let us now try to approach the most supremely beautiful idea, namely, the idea that we must remember ourselves. This idea is of such great density of meaning that it is impossible to deal with it in summary fashion. But once you begin to understand that the meaning of man's life on earth, and, of course, woman's life also, is that they were created self-developing organisms, you can appreciate better what has happened to mankind, for man lives in a very bad state of life full of hatred, jealousy, lies and violence. The reason is that he does not remember himself, because he has fallen asleep in life, and therefore is governed by negative emotions. For this reason the work says that we are all under a hypnotic sleep, and unless we try to awaken in ourselves, each one of us separately, we shall remain under the power of this hypnotic sleep where we are governed by entirely wrong influences, one of the chief of which consists in the effect of negative emotions upon us. So we have the diagram, of which I again remind you, of the different states of man as regards being awake and being asleep. Two sleeping people will never understand one another, but two people trying to awaken through the ideas of this work may begin to understand one another. The diagram is as follows, and it is called the diagram of the four levels of consciousness. You will see from this diagram that man, that is mankind, is not awake. He is living in the second state of consciousness. Now suppose he reached the fourth state, objective consciousness, he would not have to practice external considering or self-remembering, because he would see things as they really are, both himself and others, and he would be manfully awake, which is the object of all in this work, who begin to understand in what direction it is leading. It is for this reason that it is necessary to do work every day on these three previous things mentioned in the last three papers, that is negative emotions, identifying, and internal considering. And, as I said on another occasion, these things are not at all easy to work against, but if we have an aim in the work to awaken, they become easier to work against because one is shown internally how they keep one asleep, that is, in the so-called waking state of consciousness. When you begin to awaken, you have, as it were, two clocks. One tells one time and the other tells another time, but we all have an old-fashioned clock if we go on thinking in the same way as we do, and a new clock if we begin to undergo metanoia or change our thinking. Now, to return to self-remembering, I will once more say briefly what I have often said, that you must understand from what the work teaches that we came down from a very high level, from outside the solar system, and we plunged through the planetary worlds onto this earth and surrounded by flesh and blood. Then we became hypnotized by this life, and worldly things and self-love and all the rest of it began to dominate us. And yet we have something in us that this life cannot possibly satisfy by any honors or wealth or any such thing. This is the first stage towards self-remembering. If you cannot understand what I mean, then you must ask someone else. It seems to me that it is quite plain what I mean. To conclude, you must all understand that this work is to produce in you something new, both in the realm of thinking and of feeling. First of all, you hear the work, and this is like growing some leaves. Then you begin to feel the beauty of the work, and that is equal to making the blossom and you see far more than you did in the leaf state. Finally, the fruit stage comes, in which you must produce grapes. This is only possible when you see the goodness in a large way over it. Otherwise you may produce sour grapes or embittered emotions. I can only say that too many people are leafy, that is, they just grow leaves. For that reason I have been emphasizing recently that you must try to see the meaning of the work for yourselves and its goodness, in yourselves, in your understanding heart. If you're evil and hate, then no fruit can come. By their fruits ye shall know them. Does a man gather grapes from thistles? An unpleasant, negative person, prickly, is a thistle from which no fruit can come save sour grapes. So it is necessary to work on one's being, otherwise this work cannot possibly produce any good fruit. So we start with work on oneself.